Hi, Kayla Anthony here, presenting on ways of integrating writing into the chemistry classroom for the University of New England EDU 743 for the fall of 2017. After doing research this week, I found a lot of new ways to use writing. As a science teacher, I don't always know how to incorporate it, so this research was really helpful. I learned writing isn't always just essays. Usually when I think of writing essays, narratives, research papers, lab reports, which it can be, but it can also be summaries, it can be short descriptions, it can be all kinds of things. Writing allows students to show their understanding. If they can actually get it out into words, then you know that they've actually learned it as opposed to them just agreeing with what you have said. This can be through short summaries, like an exit ticket at the end of class. What have you learned today? Rather than just saying, okay, who knows what has happened and understands it, you can ask them to actually summarize in 10 words or less, a short sentence, whatever, what they've learned today. Another way of doing it is having students teach to younger students. If there's a concept such as the atomic model, students can present that information in all kinds of formats, whether it's a story or a video or a presentation to younger students. If they are able to simplify down those complex concepts, then we know that they actually understand them. There's also a difference between writing to communicate and writing to learn. The lab reports that I normally do are writing to communicate. They're just supposed to share the information that has been found, whereas we also want students to write to learn. So I've decided that I want to start adding in a discussion portion where students are going to be taking the lab a step further and analyzing what has gone wrong and how can they fix it. What have they learned from the lab and the engineering process, and they're going to have to explain that in their discussion to me and the readers. Another way of writing is to compare and contrast. One easy way to do this would be the difference between the two types of mixtures. How are they similar? How are they different? Or different types of properties and different types of chemical reactions. How are they similar and how are they different? If a student can explain both of those, then we know that they've truly understood that portion of the content. Connection to what I've already touched upon this just a little bit, but taking it further, so writing conclusions to the lab reports. Do students truly understand what has happened in the lab? Are they able to take it a step further and give me sources of error? What caused it to go wrong? And then also discuss how can we make it better? How can we take this lab a step further? And how does it connect to what we're learning in the classroom? Also having students actually design experiments. I did this the other day, and it was a struggle for students to have to write detailed step-by-step procedures so that somebody else who has no idea what they're trying to do can actually perform this. They're used to being able to get them from me, who has already done this, but getting them to design those experiments and get their thoughts actually out onto paper can be really difficult for a lot of students. It's something I want to work on more this year. Formal lab reports, as said before, most of my lab reports right now just have the data and then what the students' results are. I want to add in different things about sources of error, and I think it's also important to get into there, how does this relate to what we're learning in the classroom? Students can find that connection, then I really know that they do understand what we've been talking about and how it relates to the classroom and how it relates to their lives. Communication is definitely key in the chemistry room. 3 specific activities I want to try are the short summaries. Sorry about that. Going towards the end of the day or the end of a learning target, I want to know that students can summarize what we have learned, whether it's in a short paragraph, but students don't like doing that. So one of the sources that I had found talked about doing even just a 10-word summary. What are we learning in 10 words or less? Explain to me what we have had to use, and making sure that in those short summaries they are using the correct vocabulary and getting it detailed and specific enough rather than saying some very vague words and terms that don't actually indicate whether or not they know what is happening. Research papers, the socio-scientific issues. This was really cool. I found a research paper, and unlike the normal research papers, first the students pick a scientific issue. Could be something as broad as global warming. I'd like to try to find a way to relate it more to chemistry, though. And with this, students first write a paper, a narrative on how they feel. What is their opinion? The next paper is going to be a research paper. What does the scientific community say about this? What are the pros, and then what are the cons? And then the third paper that a student would write would be a persuasive. What should we do from here? Take a stand. Maybe their opinion has changed from their first. Maybe it hasn't. But they need to convey to people what stand we should take on this issue. And then thirdly, the compare and contrast. I could do this with many topics. I can do it with the atomic models. How are they similar? How have they changed? Why is one better than the other? I can also do it, as I've said before, with the chemical reactions. How are they the same? How are they different? Why are they used? Being a science teacher, I find it hard a lot of times to figure out ways to incorporate writing. I know it's really important, and I try to get it with my students, but it was never one of my favorite things. And looking at these, writing doesn't have to be a research paper. It doesn't have to be 12 pages long. It can be 10 words long. It can be 10 slides. It can be 10 seconds of information that they just have to share. And working on students in all kinds of capacities, whether it is a blog that they are writing to convey their information or an actual research paper, there's lots of aspects that students need to learn as effective ways to communicate the information that they have learned. Thank you very much for taking time to listen to my what I have learned this week through my research. I hope you found some of it interesting.